Back here on HQ Spotlight, there's a lot of hype around the Jags offense because you got a new head coach in Liam Cohen. We saw what he did for Baker as the OC of the Bucs, and we're excited to see what he can unleash from Trevor Lawrence in really a prove-it type of year for the former #1 overall pick. The coaching is there, the weapons are there, and BTJ and Travis Hunter when he's on, the offensive side of the ball. We saw Trevor in the opening series in the first preseason game, but will we see Trevor Lawrence play in tomorrow's preseason game against the Saints? It's on Sunday, excuse me. I wish it was tomorrow, but here is what T-Law had to say.
Yeah, I expect to play. I mean, that's the kind of the mindset in the preseason, is expecting to play, and it's always kind of a very variable very number of snaps. You don't really know exactly what it's going to be, but expecting to play. I'm not sure if the result of today's practice would or wouldn't have changed it. I don't know as far as what coach is thinking, but I'm prepared to play, and from what he's communicated to us, we're prepared to go and play a little bit.
Let's welcome in our NFL analysts John Breech and Ryan Wilson. Great to see you guys. So Trevor, we heard it there. He's ready to play tomorrow. We don't know how much. Breech, I will come to you first. You guys, I keep saying tomorrow. I'm like trying to speak into existence that I get Jaguars football back tomorrow. It is actually Sunday. Breech, how much do you want to see from Trevor Lawrence in the preseason, knowing that this is sort of a prove-it year for him?
Yeah, first, I'm glad you went to me first, Jacqueline, because Ryan's over there fantasizing about how much hair Trevor Lawrence has. But this is absolutely a huge preseason. I think the Jags are making the smart decision, Liam Cohen, to get Trevor Lawrence out there. He's learning a new offense. You're building chemistry with your new receivers, whether that's Travis Hunter. You got new guys in your backfield. Jacksonville drafted 2 running backs. So there is a lot going on with that offense right now. And as you said, Jacqueline, this is absolutely a prove-it year, although it feels like we've been saying that for 3 straight years, but it feels like the real deal this year because he has such a good offensive-minded head coach who I think can take advantage of everything that Trevor Lawrence does. So if you put him out there, he's going to be comfortable in this offense. He will be much more prepared for week 1. So if he does play on Sunday, I absolutely agree with that. I think that would be a smart move by Liam Cohen.
Hey, Jacqueline. Hey, Breech. Jacqueline, I do appreciate Breech taking the first shots because typically I try to get them in. So he got me on that one, 1-0 to Breech. But it is interesting that you talk about Saturday as opposed to Sunday for when this game takes place because you're a lifelong Jags fan. And in recent years, you probably wish they didn't play any games at all because it was so frustrating to watch. This feels different, right? Liam Cohen feels different. James Gladstone feels different. And Shad Khan, the owner, seems to have a different approach to how he wants this to look. This isn't Urban Meyer. This isn't Doug Peterson down the stretch when the wheels fell off and they put them back on and they fell off again and then the car went over the cliff. Trevor feels more at ease. Even in the one series last week, that offense seemed to be doing things it wasn't doing previously. And yeah, they made a ton of mistakes, but Liam Cohen is also holding people accountable even as a first-year young head coach. So I think Trevor Lawrence has a chance to be finally, fingers crossed, truly special and look like the first overall pick. He has to stay healthy. Someone else has to stay healthy that we're going to talk about in a second. But I think offensively, they're in a much better spot. Breech talked about the deep running back room. And I think defensively, it'll be much better than what we've seen in recent years, in part because of the guy we're about to talk about in a second.
Ryan, don't discredit 2022 because I do have actual memories of the Jags being competitive and good. So I remember the roller coaster of a game against Justin Herbert when it was like 7 interceptions from Trevor Lawrence and then 7 touchdown passes in the second half. Like, I do have some good memories, all right? Let's go to Travis Hunter, right? Because all eyes are on him. And the argument of him playing like 1 million snaps at the next level versus him doing it in college is because of health reasons, right? So we're hearing from Liam Cohen that he's probably not going to play on Sunday against the Saints because of an upper body injury. So Ryan, does that kind of give you a little bit of pause? Maybe, this is what we thought was going to happen, and he plays on both sides of the ball for 33 snaps in a preseason game, and we're already talking about injuries. Does that make you concerned at all?
A couple of things, Jacqueline. I'm glad you mentioned that 2022 playoff win, and Breech can attest. I was such a huge Brandon, the head coach of the Chargers at the time, whose name I'm now forgetting, supporter, that I just tried to whitewash that Jaguars win. He was since fired, and that is we've moved on in both situations. But in terms of Travis Hunter, here's the thing. I think it's sort of a reminder that we have to be careful about the load management, to borrow an NBA term, right? Because I will admit that I'm all in on playing Travis as much as possible because he is so electric and so much fun. And we saw him on both sides of the ball last week for a handful of snaps in series against the Steelers. Had 2 receptions, didn't do a whole bunch. That's okay. And he looked pretty good in coverage. Missed on a run tackle against the run, and that's fine as well. But I think it's just a reminder, pace wins the race in this instance, and we can't have him out there for 80 snaps no matter how dynamic and important he is. Because the thing isn't endurance. He's in the best shape of anyone on planet Earth. Trevor Lawrence basically said as much a few weeks ago at training camp to our buddy Pete Prisco. But he has been injured every year, I believe, going back to this last year in high school. We know about the 2 injuries the last 2 years in Colorado. So we just have to guard against that, not be over eager to have Travis out there, and just be wise with his usage because he can be an absolute game changer.
Yeah, I think the injuries are a huge concern. As Ryan said, there is an injury history there, and football is a violent game, and injuries do happen. So if you're playing twice as many snaps as anyone else, you have twice as good a chance of getting injured. And I think you look back at what Devontae Adams said recently. He doesn't believe Travis Hunter's going to be able to play both ways, and not because he's not athletic enough to do it, just because of he specifically pointed out to tackling someone like Derrick Henry. If you're stuck tackling these big running backs when you're playing defense, then you have to go out and play offense, and you're running deep pass routes and kind of wearing yourself out after making all this big hits. That grind adds up on you, and you try and do that every week for 17 weeks when you've never had to do it for 17 straight weeks in college. So it is a long season. So definitely Wilson is right. It's all about the pace here.
We keep looking at position battles, right, for every team when talking about the preseason. You guys have the same position battle that you're watching in Breech. It is the running backs. We got ETN, we have Tank Bigsby, we have Bashal Tutin. I did a fantasy mock right on this show yesterday, and I got none of those guys, despite wanting to get one of them. But yeah, talk to us more, Breech, about the running back room there in Jacksonville.
Yeah, this is interesting because I don't think it's clear who the #1 guy is right now. We saw Tank Bigsby and ETN both kind of have that title last season, and going into this year was who was going to have the better training camp. But then we saw Jacksonville go out and take 2 running backs in the draft. They took 4th rounder, you mentioned Tutin, 7th rounder, and LaQuint Allen. So now you have a very full running back room, and by all accounts, the rookies actually are looking impressive in training camp. So that makes things a little bit more difficult when it comes to the decision-making for Liam Cohen. Now, that being said, I do think that Bigsby and ETN are both going to get a serious amount of playing time this year because you look at what Liam Cohen did last season in Tampa Bay. Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, both carried the load there. So I think this is going to be a running back by committee. It remains to be seen who will be that #1 guy, but I expect to see Bigsby and ETN both getting a lot of playing time.
All right, let's go over to the Saints because the quarterback situation is very interesting. Just when we thought that Spencer Rattler was emerging as QB1 in the preseason game, Tyler Shuck comes in and really outplays him. So we still have more questions about this quarterback situation there with New Orleans. Ryan, who do you at this point in time have more faith in to, I want to say lead the Saints to success, but helping them be as successful as possible with the other pieces that are around said QB?
Jacqueline, just like you love to defend Anthony Richardson, Florida alum like yourself, I love to defend Spencer Rattler going back to the last 2 years, leading up to the draft. So I'm not convinced that Tyler Shuck actually outplayed him last week. I thought they both had some highlight moments, and Tyler Shuck did have that 54-yard touchdown pass. He also threw a pick 6. Spencer had a fumble, but he looked the part at times. But I think the bigger issue and the thing that we can both agree on is that there's no clear-cut winner here, and that's a huge problem for Kellen Moore, the first-year head coach, and that Saints offense. So if you're looking at what a quarterback looks like, if you build him in a factory, it's Tyler Shuck, 6'4", 225. He's a really good athlete, has a big arm. Spencer Rattler might be 6 feet on a good day, and he's not quite as athletic, although he can win with his feet. He has a big arm as well. I would give the edge to Spencer just because of the experience in the NFL, not in Kellen Moore's offense, because they both have the same amount of time there. But it's going to come down to the next 2 weeks. And if Tyler Shuck balls out and looks better, he's going to have the job. The other issue is this is something we've talked about. If they both play poorly and they have a top 3 pick, the Saints are taking a quarterback next spring.
Oh, boy. And we've heard it's not going to be Arch Manning, according to his very well-known grandfather, because Arch is staying in Texas, right? Breech, will come to you here. What position battle do we need to watch for the Saints? I feel like there's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. I am going with a fun one. It is the punter. There's a big battle going on in New Orleans with two punters. That is Kai Kroger and James Burnham. And look, Ryan just mentioned if the Saints offense isn't good, they might draft a quarterback next year. Well, if the Saints offense isn't good, you know who's going to get a ton of playing time this year? The punter. So this is actually a pretty big battle. You look at what the Saints did a few years ago. They cut Thomas Morstead, who is one of the better punters in the NFL. They have not been able to fill his shoes since then. Kai Kroger is one of the top punters in the country at South Carolina. Both these guys are rookies. James Burnham's an Australian, and there's a lot of good Australian punters in the NFL right now. Michael Dixon, Cameron Johnston. And the one thing I will say about a punter battle is you can follow this at home. Get your stopwatch out, measure the hang time, turn this into a fun game. So it'll be interesting to see who wins this punting battle because I do think the Saints will be punting a lot this year.
Ah, yes. Just what every football fan wants to hear about their team, that their punter is going to be getting a lot of reps. Beautiful. Ryan Breech, we appreciate it, getting us ready for the Jags and the Saints preseason game. That is on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, not Saturday. You can hear more from Ryan Wilson on With the First Pick podcast, CBS Sports' NFL Draft podcast, alongside former NFL GM Rand Carthon. You can watch right now by scanning that QR code on your screen. We have more HQ Spotlight coming your way after the break.